it is just, woo, freezing. Cheers to everybody out there. Yeah. Wow. It is really cold. I'm guessing right now in the bilge, it's probably about, maybe it's 40 degrees or so. I'm not really too sure. I have currently on my person, I have long underwear, I have jeans, I have thermal socks, I have one thermal top, one sweatshirt, Sailing Into Oblivion edition, very nice. I also have the sweater that my mom made me, thanks Mom, and then I have this poof jacket as well, and I'm still freezing. Oh, holy cow, it is just, it's cold, but this is of my own doing. I decided to go, so I went with, to fix this one stupid leak that I still cannot seemingly ever fix with fiberglass, resin, all these different things in the scupper on the port side that has been the bane of my existence for quite some time. I finally broke down and was just like, dude, I'm gonna need some of that Flex Seal plasticky rubber paint. And I juiced some of that up and I put it in the scuppers and it looks really good. I don't know if it actually works yet, but and it's like not the nautical way to do it, right? And I know that, but this stupid little drip. In any event, long story short, I ended up going and I was like, man, I got a bunch of this left over. Where am I going to use it? And I wanted to use it in the bilge, so I put it in the bilge. And the problem is there's fumes because it's so cold, nothing's drying. I've got some cabinetry over there that the paint now, we're getting on day 2, and the paint is not kicked. It's still a little bit tacky. So this is the Frozen Podcast, brought to you from Belhaven, North Carolina. And the craziest thing is that I'm still working a lot outside, and so I'm getting sunburnt. And I'm like, it's like the worst of all worlds. I even put sunscreen on today. When you put sunscreen on at I don't know, like you put sunscreen on when it's 50 degrees outside, it just, you're like, what is this planet we're living in? Oh, we got a little bro, your book just got delivered, to the casa in Arkansas. Going to start working on my Westdale 32 again soon. Nice, Jonathan. We get some nice little live feed chats. That's awesome. Welcome to the Westdale family. Now you are literally the 18th or 19th person that I know that's part of this Westdale family. It's crazy. Mike Poor, shout out to Mike out there in Port Townsend, I believe, is sort of the reigning guru when it comes to Westdale knowledge and outsourcing for parts and all that sort of stuff. Obviously, in Bud Taplin, we believe. Whoop! But yeah, Mike's a young guy, and oh no, not Arkansas. Got it. Alaska. Ooh, an Alaska guy. Dude, I was actually peeling through my charts not too long ago, actually yesterday, to consolidate and all that sort of stuff. And I have all these charts because I was going to do the Northwest Passage back in 2020. And I had the Aleutian Islands and the North Pacific and, oh man, all that stuff. And I'm looking at it like, oh, untapped. But neither here nor there. Greetings to our friends in Alaska. Cheers. I'm having I got a mango flavored White Claw, or as Murph would say, a white clam. Delicious. Well, maybe not nutritious, but delicious. It gets you through some of these rough times where it's freezing cold. Aboard Mighty Sparrow. Oh gosh, I must say though, this yard period has been really fun. Not only because I know that the boat will eventually go in the water. We had a bit of a delay. I'm going to get into that later on this evening. But also, it's really the people you meet. You know, there's that whole saying of like, it's not, you know, it's not the situation. It's all about the people. couldn't be a truer word ever spoken. I mean, quite literally, like an hour ago, I'm on a golf cart, like buttoned up with a couple new friends who are cruisers. I just uploaded a podcast just to the Patreon group because I have all these. I hate sitting on content, you know. So I essentially, as soon as I record a podcast, all I want to do is just upload it, upload. But I do know that I have to be sensible. I got to throttle back. Just like, it's very similar to when you're out there on the ocean, stuff goes wrong, things break, all that sort of stuff. You want to run around and fix the boat, but you might be inside of a force 9 gale, and the last thing you need to do is go climb the mast. So you throttle back, you control your emotions, control your adrenaline, and in some sort of way, it's the same thing when it comes to the content. Because I mean, I would literally post, if I'm having some crazy day where I have a million things that I want to share, I'd post like 3 or 4 videos, do a couple podcasts, throw them all out at the same time. And I know you gotta have the slow burn. Gotta think of it as in like sort of a business sense in a way. But in any event, so the Patreon group, they support the show. They're the ones that bought these beautiful microphones and this nice recording device and all that sort of stuff. So I'm gonna juice them up before I leave. Just throw all the podcasts out there, and then the other new podcast, because I've been able to sit down with all these great people while I've been in the yard, like just randomly, you know. I got a big shout out to Trout the Landfish on YouTube. It's Sailing with Trout, and he's the glue that binds us in a lot of ways. He's one of those guys that sort of just brings people together, and I don't know, I don't want to say he's unusual, but he's definitely unique in a good way, whereas I wish everybody was sort of like him. He's kind of like, hey, you got to meet this person. And he kind of brings people together. So I've been able to sit down with 4 groups of people that I met through Trout. And then randomly I had Shaw come up the other night, and he was like, hey man, or the other morning, and he was like, dude, I can't believe I'm here. I'm standing in front of Mighty Sparrow, and I definitely don't want any of that stuff to go to my head ever. But I will say I will never take it for granted when somebody just wants to shake my hand for sailing solo nonstop around the world and just doing it, you know, unsponsored, just on a whim. Well, not on a whim, but you know what I mean. And yeah, he's like listens to all the podcasts and everything like that, and it was great. We ended up having burgers on his boat last night, and it was great. It's just so nice to meet people and connect and share experiences, and hopefully plan things out for the future and stuff. Like I don't know, that's I don't want to say it's networking, but it is kind of like networking. I mean, networking in life. You know, it's not exactly just all business. It's more like, hey, we're all just out here. We're doing our thing. Let's connect up and see if we can make some magic happen. And I don't know, all that sort of stuff. Jeez Louise, who knows? I was listening to some Theo Vaughn podcast, and he's really interesting. His take on stuff when he starts to go deep. Obviously, he's a great comedian, all that sort of stuff. But when he starts really opening up, it's really interesting because there's just a lot of similarities that I think come along with him having to sort of be up on stage me in a very smaller sense, but still, it's, you know, we're all just out here trying to do what we can do. Oh, looks cold. Yeah, it is cold. Can you see my breath? Probably not. I have one heater just down here. Unfortunately, I have to have the companionway open because I'm pretty sure the fumes are toxic, that I am at least breathing in a little bit. But it's so cold outside. We're going to get down. We're going to see 22 degrees, if not a little colder tonight here in the old Belhaven, North Carolina area. So it is going to be, it's going to be brutal. It won't be brutal once I get into my bunk, though. Kerosene. Oh man, I wish I had some kerosene. I wish, you know, honestly, I'm kicking myself these days because when I procured the lovely Mighty Sparrow, then called Cyrano, or Cyrano, Cyrano. Ugh, such an awful name. It was actually Cierno de Bergerac, like that. That was sort of who it was named after. In any event, it did come with one of those heaters, but it was in a box. It was not mounted over in this area here. Let me just angle that. Ooh, where I have this lovely piece of artwork by Mary B. Follow her on Instagram. Essentially, there was one of those big heaters that goes here, and then I believe that light actually plugs up a hole. It's a false light. It does nothing. But that plugs up the old chimney hole. And essentially, I did not have any more room. I could not deal with how much stuff was on Sparrow. We had a dinghy. We had all this other sort of stuff. And eventually I was just like, dude, I'm done. I'm over it. I don't need all this stuff. I'm going to the Caribbean for the next like 6 months. And I hawked it. Oh, it would have been so nice to have some sort of either diesel heater, any sort of burning heater sort of thing would, like, now I'd be chilling here in a tank top. Just like, wow, it's 82 degrees in here. I would have been inviting people over. Can't do that. Nope, definitely not. It is so cold. Oh. But I am growing my beard out. I don't know if anybody noticed that one. That's pretty new. It's a lot whiter than it used to be, unfortunately. But hey, we all get old, so let's just own it, right? Yeah, essentially, it's going to be cold until I get past the Gulf Stream. Or to the Gulf Stream, I should say. To the Gulf Stream and past it. Cheers to that. My buddy James Hodge is going to be coming along with us, but we ran into some, I want to call it a speed bump, or I would call it a road bump, except where we're going, we don't need any roads. And essentially, how it works in like the Pamlico and Pungo River and the Sound and everything that's here inside of the outer banks of North Carolina, if the wind is blowing for a bunch of days out of the west, the northwest, the west, or the southwest, it empties the water out. It pushes it out into the Atlantic. So they don't really work on tides. I can still remember when I actually called TJ's and I was like, hey man, well, I'm gonna try and get there at high tide. He was just like, I'm gonna try and do a TJ voice. TJ's like the coolest guy ever, the guy that owns this marina. And he's like, oh, what does he say? I'm gonna murder this. He's like, well, we don't really work on them tides, man. It's not how it goes. That's the worst. It's the worst ever. And he is super nice. He drove me over to the gas station the other day in his gigantic truck. But in any event, yeah, I thought, because if you go online, you're gonna actually see the tides and you see it go up and down a little bit. But he's like, no, it doesn't work like that here. It's all wind driven. And so I conversed with him and Rob. Shout out to Rob. And they showed me how they gauge what the height of the water is around here, and they were like, yeah, it's about 1.5 feet down. Problem is, there's a little tiny creek that you got to get into, and I'd be plowing through some serious muck, which for most boats isn't too big a deal. They even offered to just tow me through it with a power boat, and I'm probably going to have to do that. Sparrow's going to finally, after all these years, going to have to take a little bit of a tow. But I figure if it's us pushing through some disgusting old stuff, then, you know, hey, that's probably okay. It's not like I need a tow for distress by any means. But yeah, these little speed bumps come up, and I was able to, it was kind of nice. I was talking on the podcast a few days ago about how, yeah, you know, you set this date that's sort of set in stone, but then you bump it up a couple of days, and when you do that, it gives you a little bit of wiggle room. And I've always liked doing that. So, you know, for example, like you'd say, well, I want to leave on Wednesday. Well, okay, now in my brain, I'm going to leave on Monday. And so I got to prep the boat. I'm going to do everything I possibly can to get the boat ready to set sail on Monday. And then Monday comes and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to be running around all over the place. Well, guess what? You got a couple extra days because you built them in. It's kind of hard. It's a bit of a mental game to try and actually like believe that you're actually going to do that instead of just being like, well, I'm not actually going to leave on Monday. But believe it or not, just like anything, you hear something enough and you're going to start believing it. So as long as you just stay on that train, don't sort of let it derail, then you do. Because I was literally convinced. I was like, oh, today's the day. We got to do it. And then everybody came in, and essentially they showed me the error of my ways. But in any event, so after we made the decision to just hold fire for a couple of days, it's only like $9, $9.50 or something every day that I sit here, which yeah, I better get out of here. I better get out of here quick. The bill is piling up day by day. You know, I'm hopeful that maybe we'll go in tomorrow. Maybe it'll be the next day. Maybe it'll be the day after that. But either way, the game plan at this point, moving forward, so that everybody knows, is to splash the boat, tug it through the muck, get out into the Pungo. I think it's Pungo. I hope it is. I hope I'm not mispronouncing that. Out inside of Belhaven, then take all the creeks and the intracoastal and all that sort of stuff down to the lovely burg of Beaufort, North Carolina, and post up there until James is ready. And once James comes down, he's going to meet me. And once we get a good weather window, we are going to head out into the big ocean blue. Ideally, weather permitting, headed directly for Bermuda. And if we get that going, it should be at 600 miles, give or take a few. And so that's about a 5-day sail. If we've got the breeze, if we've got a brisk breeze and it's a downwinder, we can do that in even a little less time. Sparrow's been known, I'm not going to lie, Sparrow has been known to do 150 plus miles a day. Now, before everybody starts calling it a wet snail and all that sort of stuff, if you know how to sail one of these old, full, heavy displacement, full keel double enders, well, then you know how to actually sail. I mean, you can boost the big numbers. Record run, no current, was 168 miles in 24 hours. All-time best with current in the Gulf Stream was a rip from Beaufort, South Carolina to Rockland, Maine. It took us 8.5 days. My buddy Bojangles from the old Appalachian Trail came along for that ride. We had a stiff southerly and a very, very high-speed freight train of a Gulf Stream, and we were able to do 214 miles in 24 hours. That was the absolute best. I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to tick that up. It'd be pretty sweet to get to 250, but I feel like that would be, I don't know, almost impossible. I'll take 214. I challenge any other West sailor to, without the modification that fills in the gap between the rudder and unmodified here, the rudder and the keel. You know, there's about an inch and a half or an inch wide gap, but there's gudgeons, there's all this drag and sort of stuff. You can do this modification to fill that in with like foam and fiberglass to make the West sail even sleeker. I sometimes wonder why they don't do something like a beak for these boats to sort of sharpen the angle of attack of the bow, if you will. But who knows? Who knows? I'm not a boat designer, and I don't want to be one. So I'm just going to use, you know, some people. I hear those stories, and I always have to take my hat off to these sailors that go out and build their own boats and then venture out in the ocean. My goodness gracious, that's just unbelievable. I mean, to put that much faith in your own workmanship, holy smokes. Give me, you know, part of the reason that I chose the West Sail 32 in the first place was the fact that there was so much information and so many decades of use and abuse, and all of the picadillos, if you will, were sort of identified. You know, why the masts fell down back in the day, why this failed, why that failed. And so we were able to build on that. I mean, I'm a big proponent of, you know, we all stand on the shoulders of giants. Our accomplishments typically are truly because people before us were willing to take the risks, go over the wall first, that sort of thing. And yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things you can't ever just be like, I did this. It's one of those things where you got to say, well, really, we did this. Me and the big giant person who really stepped up, that's standing down below me, that I'm standing on their shoulder. Wow, getting a little high and mighty tonight? I don't know. Maybe it's the White Claw. Who knows? Shout out to Murph. Boy, I wish Murph was watching right now. That guy is such a legend, you know. I'm sitting here cold in my little boat, like, ooh, I got my heater on. Murph's in his shack up there at Night Marine. Guaranteed he's up there right now. And boy, I almost want to call him, but I know, here's the thing. I've always wanted to get Murph to be able to do sort of like call-in podcasts, but that thick North Maine accent mixed with the lobsterman lingo makes it so hard to understand what he is saying, especially if it's going through a cell phone, through a speaker, to a microphone. I mean, I would have to have captions, closed captioning for all of it, for sure. And he just, God almighty, he's just such a genuine, unbelievable character. I'm so glad I've been able to include him into, no, not include, I'm so glad he included me, holy cow, into just life in general. Like, you know how every once in a while you meet these people and they just become friends, but then all of a sudden you sort of realize, like, this person is actually like, this person's like, whoa, different. This is somebody to be treasured. And I, you know, not that I hope this would ever happen, but you know, old Murph, he doesn't have the best diet in the world. You know, he's one of those guys that you know, usually breakfast is taken from a vending machine accompanied by a Red Bull, and it's pretty gnarly. I don't even know how he's still alive, but some of us have just better genes. He'll probably live to be 100, and you know, he's just incredible. All right, we're getting some comments in here. What are the temps inside right now? Registering 48 degrees on the floor with a heater pointed directly at me. It's pretty chilly in here. What's up, Drum? Colin Denker. Hey, how's it go? Oh, Colin, what's up, man? Oh, dude. Good to hear from you. This is great. The entire West Sail community has been great. Truly grateful for the knowledge people are willing. Yeah, I know. It really is. Like, the amount, I suppose, Cape Dory probably has the same sort of thing, but I don't know. So West Sailors, we're an odd bunch. We're willing to put up with the picadillos of essentially a life raft with a mast, in order to just be able to sort of post up and be like, what up? I can go anywhere in the world I want. Turn me upside down. I won't have a frown. I'm all good. And that rhymed. Wow. Oh, hopefully, pretty soon I'll be able to put out some of these podcasts that I've been doing with all these people. I'm going to put them on the Patreon page, first and foremost, because that's all nice and ad-free. But I'm going to be, so we get to head out to sea. James and I will obviously do quite a bit of podcasting. He's a friend of the show. He's been on the show a bunch of times. He's hilarious. Stand-up comedian, does a lot of writing for comics, does a lot of writing for all sorts of stuff, and got the gift of gab for sure. Usually when we sit down, we're in it for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and he and I stuck on a 32-foot vessel. We're definitely going to be chatting away. So by the time we get out to Bermuda, there will be a lot of uploads. Oh, excuse me. But hopefully the game plan is to upload a bunch of these podcasts that I've been doing, these interviews with these youngster sailors. It's I feel in my age a little bit these days, but that's okay. I don't mind. I don't mind because I think I utilize my youth in a pretty calculated yet cavalier attitude, if that makes any sense, where I tried to follow the whole whimsical sort of dream of like, oh, I want to be in the Caribbean, oh, I want to do sailing, I want to do this, but I was also kind of trying to build upon something that might have a sustainable future in it, i.e. sailing, managing, and all that sort of stuff, and also just being, I think about what I do for my sort of, the majority of my income is going to be from speaking engagements, right? And it has been for a bunch of years now. And I developed a lot of that comfort that comes to somebody who's getting up on stage in front of like 100 or more people from all those jobs where, if you're running a water sports center, you're doing award shows, you're doing all this sort of stuff, you're in front of people, you're teaching people, groups, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I don't know. It was one of those things you don't think about too much in the beginning, but then all of a sudden you're sort of like, oh, I forgot that public speaking is the number one fear amongst human beings on planet Earth, because it is and can be pretty terrifying. You're standing up there, all these eyeballs are looking right back at you. So it's definitely noted for sure, but it is also one of those things. It's an acquired skill, so the more you do it, the better you get at it, the more comfortable you get, and the less butterflies. But I still get nervous. I still definitely get nervous. So don't think I'm some like, oh, I'm a robot, I'm fine, I don't care. Mango is my favorite flavor, by the way. FYI to all those who are out there, I do need to, I don't know if this is a faux pas or not. Oh, no, I can't, because the phone is doing the recording too. Shoot, I wanted to text one or two people who always hit me up after I do these live streams. They're like, oh my God, I missed the live stream. It's mostly one of a great person. I'm going to just shout out to Shell. She's got a YouTube channel, Passages from the Heart, and she's growing her channel up. She's getting a new boat. She's going to be a Lake Superior sailor. Hopefully, I'll be able to join her up there at some point and do a little bit of sailing around the old Apostle Islands. Hopefully, I'm not calling out too much. I don't want to dox anybody. I'm not going to say any marinas or anything like that. But I can't believe we didn't drop this boat in the water. I should be floating. I went through every single avenue though, and I called as many people as I possibly could. I've tried to do my due diligence, because for a minute when I was like, man, I think we probably should just wait a little bit. I thought, well, why are we doing that? I started questioning myself, my intentions, my why would you want to postpone if you absolutely don't have to? And then, I mean, there are conditional things that are going on. One is that tonight it is going to get down to 22 degrees, which I know that when I'm in the water, I'm going to be a little more insulated from that. It's not going to be as cold. There's nothing colder than a boat on the hard. The wind cuts through, and somehow just it's like bone chilling cold for some reason. But when you're in the water, you're insulated. Half the boat, all the lower stuff is going to be in water that's probably 55, 60 degrees. I don't know. I didn't have the wherewithal to go down there and take a temperature gauge of the old water down there. But if anything, tomorrow, if it still seems like, dude, it's going to be too much to push through the creek and get out there, I think tomorrow we're still going to just launch the boat. There's a couple of slips here at TJ's Boatyard and Marina. No, sorry. I always present TJ's Marina and Boatyard, biggest little boatyard in North Carolina. And at least I can go and float. I ran the engine for quite some time. I need to heat up the oil because I did an oil change. I would really like to test out the refrigeration of this fine vessel. And honestly, it would be kind of nice because they have complimentary golf carts to get down to the old Food Lion. I'd really, really like to do at least some basic sort of the kind of provisioning you do for the staples. You get the bags of rice, you get this, you get the water, blah blah blah, all these sort of things. When you're on a dock, it's a lot easier, because remember, when you're on the hard, you got about a 10-foot ladder you got to climb up every single time you need to pee. Every single time you need to go do anything. And sometimes it kind of gets a little bit old, for sure. But it's a heck of a lot more convenient when you're sitting next to a dock and you can just cart over all the stuff you got, and then bang, you're good to go. So still on the list of things to do. Oof. I mean, I swear I'm checking things off of this list, but as fast as I check them off, more things keep popping up. Every time I look around, I look over here and I'm like, here, let me just, there's the sail right. Yep. That's the sewing machine. The sewing machine, oh geez. Sewing machine needs to be utilized. If I have the time, I need to go through my drifter, my smaller drifter, drifter number 2, the Fiesta colors, and see if the luff tape is still good or if it needs to be replaced. Now, that's a tough job to do inside of a boat, but there are areas here at TJ's that I probably can lay the whole thing out, take that thing down, and zip up a new one. And then I know that I can utilize it. It's kind of one of the crazy things. So the boat's been out of the water for about 18 months. And then before that, I was doing these trips. I was trying to this, that, and the other thing, updating things here and there. But then all of a sudden, I mean, when 18 months goes by, dude, the flares, they're out of order. So I got to go get some new flares when I get down to Beaufort. The EPIRB, I need to find a new battery for that, because even though the safety check went fine, it's still, it's out of date. It's like, and all these little things come up, and they all come with a price tag, unfortunately. I think about some of the expense, that whole idea of like the word boat means bring on another 1,000. The entire West Coast community has been great. Yeah, they have. And it's one of those things where it's super true with the boat. It's true with the house. It's true with the car, I suppose. But boats have a tendency to just kind of, it's like you think everything's good, but the fact that they're in the ocean, something happens. They're just like being eaten alive by the elements, I guess. Who knows? But I cleaned my fans. These are all nice and dialed right in. Look at this. Ooh, love that. Gotta have the fans for when I get down to the tropics. Game plan. Again, let's just go over this real quick. James and I sailing out to Bermuda, spend 1 or 2 days there, do whatever fixing I need to, depending on how bad the weather is when we get out there or as we're going out there. And then my game plan is to head out into the Atlantic for another week or two, head south for a week, maybe do a peel through the Caribbean, stop in for a beer or two, and then essentially head back to the States. I have events coming up in the beginning of March, so I want to be back here sometime in February, late February. But one of the troubles that I am coming up with is trying to find a marina that I can actually live aboard the boat while tied off, and also hopefully it being south enough that I don't freeze and have to wear all these layers all the time. Unfortunately, over recent years, and some would say even decades, the liveaboard situation is slowly dwindling away into Never Never Land. It really does kind of suck. I'm not gonna lie. Safe harbors buying up marinas left, right, and center. They don't let people live aboard their boats for more than a few days or whatever. I don't know the all logistics or if that's across the board. Called one marina down in Titusville, and they were like, the first question they asked, are you a liveaboard? And I was like, yes. And they were like, oh, we don't do that. And I know, I understand. I mean, a marina is like an apartment complex. You don't want to just let some randoms in, so you kind of have to, all the marinas that I've ever been to, even the boatyards as well, typically if you cold call them, they're all going to be like, no, we don't do that, and you have to do that for protection because there's so many do-nothing Larrys out there that have spoiled sort of the liveaboard lifestyle for the rest of us. Unfortunately, I don't speak very kindly of them, so I won't speak of them at all. But yeah, essentially it's understandable. You get undesirable clientele, because honestly, the biggest thing, if you owned a marina, if I owned my own marina, I had 100 slips, I got all these boats, I got all these people, the winter season comes in, it's great. All of a sudden, oh, hey, guess what? Chad over there just pulled in on his boat. We never see him during the day. He only stays up all night. He plays music. There's funny smells coming out of the place. He's very antisocial, and everybody's a little bit cautious. And it's like, well, great. Now we got this guy in the yard, And I understand that. It sucks. How do you prevent that? Well, you have to prevent it by saying, well, we don't take liveaboard. So that means my job is to essentially try and ingratiate myself into some community, because what I've found is that if you do go to a yard or you do go to a marina as a transient for a little bit, and you sort of meet everybody and you're social and you're able to sort of get to know people, then all of a sudden you can be like, hey man, so what's with the liveaboard thing? And they're like, oh, no, you're good, man. We can sort something out. At least that's what I'm hoping. I don't know, maybe not. Try Causeway Cove Marina in Fort Pierce, Florida. I love Fort Pierce. Fort Pierce is awesome. That's where I go down and hop on that one West Sail. They have slips and mooring balls and allow liveaboards. Lived there on my boat for 2 years. What's up, fishing with sails? All right. I'll try that one out. I need to get a pen or something. I had one. Dang it. Hold on. I'm coming back. Help me. There we go. Yeah, I'm always up for that. I've literally, Night Marine up in Rockland, Maine, I found that place by referral. Ladies Island Marina down in Buford in South Carolina, I found that by referral. It was awesome. Causeway Cove. Because I got a good good buddy of mine from the BVI that lives in Melbourne and lives on a farm, all that sort of stuff. Super cool. He owned a kite surf school down in the BVI. Shout out to Scotty. He's there in Melbourne, and he's an old guy like me, and I got to visit him. I got to stay one night, and unfortunately I had to, jet out after that. But God, it's always good to be able to be in a place with like an old friend, an old relic, if you will. I mean, I've known him since 2007, and yeah, if I could be anywhere near that place, that would be fantastic. So appreciate that. Fishing with sails. So does that mean you fish from a sailboat? Interesting, because I do. Not very well, though. I'm not going to lie. Not very well at all. All right, temperature's up to 48 now. Whoop, whoop. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not smelling so much of that fresh paint. So I think we're getting to a place where we might be sort of almost safe. I am going to be shutting when I do go and sleep up in the forward bunk. I'm going to be shutting these doors so that I'm not breathing those fumes throughout the night, because I do have some sense of self-preservation. All evidence to the contrary, I suppose. Yeah, I probably have as much money in sailing gear as I do in fishing gear. Yeah, I'll bet, dude. My buddy Mike Porter, East Coast Yacht Sales. If you ever need a small power boat or big power boat, check him out. He's up in Newport. He had the best saying. He was like, I was talking about provisioning for the trip around the world, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna bring a couple hand lines and some hooks and a few lures and all that sort of stuff. And, I should be pretty good catching some fish along the way. And he looked at me, he's like, dude, there are people that literally spend millions of dollars to be able to just catch one or two good fish a year. They enter tournaments, all that stuff. He's like, good luck. And he is a full-on realist. He's one of my best friends. Man, oh man, he's absolutely just a class act, and he's 100% right. Fishing gear is so expensive. Oh man, I'm sure there's got to be some acronym for fishing that's pretty funny. If there isn't one, we should make one up and coin it, throw it on an old bumper sticker, try and make ends meet on our boat, bring on another 1,000. Oh, jeez Louise, I can't believe it. The nice part is right now we are on the cusp. We know, and I always say that, I'm always like we. I know that the boat is going in some semblance of some way in the next day or two. And this could be, I know tonight is the last night that it's going to be in the 20s. Tomorrow night it's going to be in like the 30s or 40s, which is going to feel like the tropics. So it's sort of one of those things. And we were talking about, so I had this fellow sailor on the boat today. And we did a podcast, and one of the main topics was, the whole suffering and joy, pain and pleasure, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff, where, when you are facing down these challenges and more challenges get thrown at you, what do you do to essentially not give up? Not be like, dude, white flag, I'm over it. I'm just done. Like, I'm done. Well, one of the things we talk about, when you're on a sailboat in the middle of the ocean, you can't really say that. So we're lucky in that avenue. But let's relate this to actual human beings on dry land, terra firma. Well, one of the things that I've always done is I kind of just envision things. I literally project myself and I see myself. I was telling, I keep having trouble. I want to call this girl Michaela, and it's not. It's Marissa. And like we hang out every single day. Her and Brett are on this little boat called Shelly. It's fantastic. Either way, they've got a great YouTube channel. Brett and Marissa, check it out. Yeah, it's one of those things where I see myself climbing up a ridgeline with a big sort of backpack that has a big piece of plywood on top of it that is then piled high with like boulders, and each boulder is labeled, and it's labeled with all these stupid little things that keep getting thrown at me. And when a new one comes up in front of me, I grab it and I'm like, whoop, toss it on the pile, boys, because it's going to just make, when we finish this, so much better. And when you go into that, when you trick your brain into truly believing that, and I don't mean to say like, oh, you got to like lie to yourself, because I don't think you're actually lying to yourself. In all reality, it's all about the perspective that you have on every instance in our lives. You know, you can go high road, you can go low road, whatever you want. Well, when you pile that up, I mean, the higher the pile, the heavier the load, the more the challenges that you're dealing with, the more of a revelation of an amplified joy of just this wonderful feeling that you're going to get when you finally get to the peak and you get to offload all of that stuff because you've not given up and you've pushed on through. And so I see that. I see it in my head, and I've done it enough, and I've projected myself enough because, man, I have spent a huge portion of my life suffering, as far as, and it's suffering in the way of like, I put myself in these stupid positions where, oh, I'm in the Southern Ocean. Oh, I'm on a ridgeline in, the Appalachian Mountains, and there's a lightning storm. Oh, you know, I'm camping. You know, the first one, I've referenced this before, but one of the first self-discovery moments of my life was essentially in Sylvania Wilderness, or it was Boundary Waters. I can't remember which. But essentially, I had set up my tarp. I thought it was a good camping spot. I didn't realize I was in a ditch or a divot or a low point. And at 2 a.m, when it just started raining and it's cold and it's windy and there was nothing I could do, and my sleeping bag was soaking up water like a sponge, and all I could do was basically sit up so the upper half of my body didn't get soaking wet, I just started laughing. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was like the funniest thing in the world that I am in this situation. It's gonna be miserable for the next like 6 hours, probably more. Well, it made me laugh because I was like, this is gonna be a great story. This is a good experience moving forward. Not only to learn not to, you know, set up your tent or your tarp in a divot, but also just to sort of see what you're made of. What kind of grit do you have? What kind of guff do you got to shove back at the world when it shoves that stuff at you? Wow. Food for thought. I always think about that night because it was funny. I mean, uncontrollable laughter. Uncontrollable. I'm pretty sure some of the other guys that were in their cozy little tents, dry as a bone, were like, what is going on out there? Is Jerome gotten to the old grandpa's old cough medicine, perhaps? No, not at all. But anyway, that's I think that's pretty much going to be it for this evening. It's cold. I'm going to probably make a little bit more food, crack another claw, and then maybe bed down for the night. I'm going to have to upload this on the audio version of the podcast as well. But I want to thank everybody for all the support across the board. We actually picked up a couple Patreon family members today, which is always a fantastic surprise to see that email. But we've also had, I don't know, I think it's just we're in the Christmas spirit of things, or people are just really giving. But it's always huge when people throw out those donations and stuff, because it does really help, especially when the old yard bill is due and all that sort of stuff. Not that I'm not trying to like sell people on the old sell people on anything, but in any event, I really, really appreciate all the support everybody's given me, both monetarily, verbally, and emaily, as far as emailing in and letting me know that I'm not just shouting into the wind. And I think more than anything, I want to give a shout out to Shaw, because he really, he came up. He was like, dude, I've listened to all your podcasts, and I'm getting a boat. And he's on a boat already, but he wants to get a sailboat. And to hear, it's bitter. It's double-edged sword, because sometimes I'm like, oh, geez, if this goes really bad, I'm going to feel like awful to have influenced you to do this. But, I think in the end, everybody's going to learn a good experience from just going out and going and jumping in. As Marissa would say, you just got to jump right in. And she's right, like we got like that long. We got that long on this planet. Man, just use it. Just grab, go. Don't ever wait. Don't ever wait. Just get that dream, get that goal, figure out a plan, figure out a way, do it safely, think about it. We don't need anybody jumping off, into the unknown, but go after it. Go after it. You get this one life, so hopefully you enjoy it. Oh, faux pas. My phone just dinged. Well, but I'm recording with my phone, so there's nothing I can do about that. Anyway, I'm going to end this stream here. I'm going to end the podcast here. Thank you all so much for the support. Thanks for listening. And until next time, stay warm and get those goals in line, people. There's a huge, adventurous life right out there waiting for you. You can just go and grab right a hold of it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Pink.